Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. This video, we're going to talk about a few different things. We are going to go over the update on this earthquake that happened in Morocco. The death toll has gone up. We have an update on Elder Holland's health that just came out. I've made some adjustments to my spreadsheets and I've added more to my Google Earth. We're going to take a look at everything that's happened since May, because I have it all updated now on Google Earth, including the area that was affected by the Canadian wildfire smoke. I put that all on here, and it's really good to visualize. I'm a very visual person. I don't know if you are. Put it in the comments below. Are you a visual person? How do you learn best? But for me, I have to see it, to really understand it. And so I'm going to show you everything that's been going on all across the world since May. And then President Nelson, okay, so he wrote something commemorating his 100 years of life. Okay, this is actually on the churchnews.com website. And I realized that he basically has pointed out a lot of major events that he's seen. He's like looking back on his life, but as he shares what he's seen in his life, you kind of realize that a lot of these are signs of the times, like really big signs of the times. And I went through the whole thing. I highlighted the disasters, the wars, but also the good things in green. So we're going to go through this. And he mentions a few times the fact that he is now in his 100th year. And so we're going to go over that whole concept, and it's going to be really good. So first, let's take a look at the Flood the Earth Challenge, where we're sharing the Book of Mormon. Here's the update. We hit the milestone of 6,500. I do a highlight for every 500 copies of the Book of Mormon that we share. And so we are now at 6,517. So good job, everybody, hitting that milestone. Really the goal right now is to get to 10,000 copies of the Book of Mormon, but we're making progress day by day by day. We're making progress, especially for some reason, recently, since the 28th, things have like really taken off. So good job, everybody that's made that happen. But virtually every single time I update, this challenge, we always have at least a few new copies of the Book of Mormon that have been shared. And then we're getting close to the milestone for number of people participating. I'm hoping that we can get to 700 soon, and ultimately at least 1,000. I have 17,800 subscribers, so hopefully more people can get in on this, and I would encourage you to do so if you haven't already. All right, before we get into the disaster things, we're going to look at the recent videos of different things that have happened. Here's the update on Elder Holland. And this is something that I've had on my mind ever since he went into the hospital, because a long time had gone by and didn't really know what was going on with this. So it says, Elder Holland recuperating at home. After an extended hospital stay, Elder Jeffrey R. Holland of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles is now recuperating at home. Elder Holland and his children are very grateful for the many prayers offered on his behalf during this health challenge and time of sorrow following the passing of Sister Holland. As his health improves, he looks forward to resuming active service in his ministry. So that's a lot more optimistic than, I don't like to look at the negative side of things or be pessimistic, but I was a little bit concerned. And I know that a lot of you, including myself, offered prayers on his behalf. So hopefully we'll still have him for a long time yet. But this is good news that he's recuperating and plans to resume his active service in the church. So I kind of, if I had to guess though, I don't know. There's still like a month. Put in the comments below. Do you think that we will see him this general conference? Do you think that he'll talk, or do you think it's too soon? I guess my guess would be that we probably won't see him just because of all this stuff that's happened, and maybe it's taken a lot of time away, or maybe not. Maybe it's given him time to prepare for his talk. I don't know. Anyway, put your guess in the description below, and then we'll see if he ends up speaking this general conference. Okay, we are going to Morocco. Here's footage of that night that the earthquake struck. 7.1. As far as I know, it's still consider. I should have pulled that up. Let's just do it right now. So I think it is still by the USGS being considered a 6 point. I'm gonna have to a 6.8. Let's see. Let's do the last 7 days. 4.5 or above. Yeah, according to the USGS, they have it at a 6.8. I know that like different countries, they have different standards, for how they categorize earthquakes. So this could be according to like Morocco's, National Earthquake Center or whatever it's called. But there is an update on that. Let me go hop over to NBC News's live blog or live updates thing that they have set up for this. So the last time that I did a video on this, I think it was the very last video I did on Saturday. At that time, the death toll was at 1,300. So as of right now, Monday morning, I'm doing this at 10:33 a.m. Central Time. It's now almost 2,500. So it's gone up by a little bit more than 1,000 since last time. And the sense that I get looking at everything, it seems like it's probably going to continue to go up. So anyway, let me just read the highlights here. Almost 2,500 people were killed and almost as many injured, at least 1,400 critically in Friday night's magnitude 6.8 earthquake in the Moroccan high Atlas Mountains, southwest of Marrakesh. A desperate search for survivors continues as armed forces and international aid teams fight through rubble and devastation to reach remote mountain areas. The United Nations estimates 300,000 people across the region have been affected. Many slept outside for a third consecutive night. No Americans have been reported killed. And okay, that's pretty much pretty much it. So accordingly, I've updated my earthquake spreadsheet. By the way, I get this question pretty frequently. If you want to access my spreadsheets, all of them are in this workbook, which includes all these spreadsheets, all these tabs at the bottom. You can access this entire thing with a link that's in the description below. In every single video, I put a link so you can access these. You can't change anything on my spreadsheets, of course, but you can copy stuff over to your own documents and whatever you want to do. Okay, so this has been updated. So now let me zoom in even more. So now the total death toll for all earthquakes this year is at 61,806, approximately, of course. Now this year remains at the number 5 spot as far as deadliest years, going back to 1985. I wish I had more information going back, but I'm getting these numbers from Wikipedia, but I've organized them in my own way. And so 5th deadliest year since 1985. The 4th deadliest year was at 88,000 in 2008. So we're still a ways from that. Of course, who knows what's going to happen the rest of this year. If we look at the total earthquakes by magnitude, we've talked about the fact that, it seems like, going back to 1985, you have maybe one 8.0 or above, approximately, once a year, maybe a little bit less than a year if you were to average it out. And so We didn't have one last year. We didn't have one in 2021. We did have 2020. We did have 3 in 2021. So are we going to have one this year? And even if we do, it doesn't mean that it's going to be deadly. Sometimes they hit out, in like the Pacific Ocean, and nothing really happens. But the fact remains, we still have several months remaining this year. We still basically have like a third of the year left. So there's still a lot that could happen. Let's hope that it doesn't. But this number is getting relatively close to that number 4 spot in 2008 at 88,000. So it's been a bad year for earthquakes in terms of death toll. In fact, you have to go back basically to maybe 2011 to see what you could consider like a pretty bad year, which I'm just arbitrarily calling anything 20,000 or more deaths. Of course, every death is unfortunate, but anyway, that's where we're at with that. All right, let's go back to the video. All right, Libya. Okay, now I had already covered this in the previous video. I think it was my most recent video. There were some videos coming out on X showing this kind of flooding in Libya, and I was able to verify it. There was only like a couple articles out, but over the weekend it's gotten worse, and we're about to see video after video of what's starting to become normal. It feels like. Let's hop over to Google Earth. So what you have is there's this hurricane in the Mediterranean, Hurricane Daniel, where there were these kind of scenes like the raging rivers going through city streets and stuff like that, flash flooding. That was happening, in Turkey, Bulgaria, Greece, multiple locations, but I just have like the kind of like 3 just to represent those 3 countries. And then the last video I did there, we knew that there was some in Misrata right here, but we have 3 new cities that we're going to see here in these X videos: Derna, Al Marj, Benghazi, and of course there's going to be smaller cities and towns. And then even in Tunisia over here, I don't know how to pronounce this, Sousse, I don't know. We had Madrid this month. Gosh, it's only the 11th, and we've already had all this like crazy flooding right here. We also have a new one up in the UK, but we're going to talk about that a little bit later. This is all just this month. This is just this month. In fact, maybe now would be a good time. All right, so this is this month. There's Louisiana's largest wildfire in state history. Oh yeah, can't forget about China. This same type of insane flooding happened in Hong Kong and Fuzhou. But let's turn on some more months. So right now I just have September. Let's go ahead and add August, which, we get a few more. There's flooding up here in, I think that's, if I remember right, that's Croatia. Let me turn on the borders. No, it's either Serbia or, oh, no, okay, it's Slovenia. There was that same type of intense flooding in the capital city of Slovenia. Okay. All right, let me turn on some more. So August, July, June, May. I'm going to do May. Go back that far because I don't have much more before that. Okay. So look at these kind of like grayish white orb looking icons right here. Okay, these are the capital cities that were affected by the Canadian wildfire smoke. And I drew a polygon around the boundary here, just kind of connecting the outer dots, the outer cities. And this is roughly the area that's been affected by the Canadian wildfire smoke. And I've felt that this is significant because it's one of those events that turns the moon red. It darkens the sun. Again, in New York City, there was an X post by somebody that said that they couldn't see the sunrise because the the smoke from the fires was so thick. And it caused really dramatic scenes all across the country, both in the United States and in Canada, where the fires are happening. And then it traveled all the way across the Atlantic to Lisbon and Madrid in Portugal and Spain, respectively. So it was quite the event, and it's still ongoing. In fact, we could take a look really quick at Zoom Earth. For all I know, maybe there's some coming down right now. I don't really see any in the United States, but you do still see it up here in Canada. You know, all this like kind of grayish haze in between the white clouds. Oh, that's pretty crazy looking right there. And maybe we can go back a few days. Yeah, it looks like, look, it looks like some of it's still coming down. This is on the 8th of September, so just 3 days ago. And you have smoke coming down through Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, even some into Kansas, and Missouri. It's still going on. It's still happening. And if you're new to the channel, or if you didn't know, it's because Canada this year is having its worst wildfire season in recorded history. Altogether, the worst wildfires, the most land burned. That's going on right now. All right, so back here. So anyway, this is just kind of the general area. Of course, it's not specific, but this gives you kind of an idea of the area affected by the Canadian wildfire smoke. We've had that same crazy insane type of flooding in Juneau, Alaska. I'm just looking at like the flooding areas. Of course, there was the Hurricane Idalia that hit Florida, and I saw a report for Atlanta where there was some flooding there. So that's what. So okay. This is what I'm doing now. Let's go to my. I'm going to change the name of this. My capital cities spreadsheet. I've decided I'm going to go ahead and I am going to try and just keep track of all these disasters happening. So this is what the criteria is going to be. I'm going to put any time any capital city is affected by some kind of disaster, no matter how big or how small. And then outside of capital cities, I'm going to try and keep track of cities that get hit by large dramatic disasters. So if it looks like there's just like regular type of flooding, I'm not going to do that. But if it's something that's really heavy, really intense, it's record breaking, any of the above, then I will add it to this spreadsheet. So you can see all these Libyan cities, and then Sousse, Tunisia have been added here. I have Gateshead, United Kingdom. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Okay. So, yeah, this is everything that I have right now. Remember, down here in Brazil and Argentina, you had this crazy flooding. And then some in India right here. And then what we didn't see before, Beijing. In fact, Beijing, this was just last month. So within the last 2 months, China has been flooding. And I don't even have everything on here. So it's even worse than this. You know, hopefully this kind of opens up your eyes a little bit. Let's go back to the videos. So, all right. So Libya, over the weekend, it's gotten even worse, and this is what it looks like. Flooding in Chile. Now, I did verify that, but I'm not going to put it on my list just because I can't tell how like historic, dramatic, or anything like that it is. They say down here that there were 18 millimeters of rain within 45 minutes, and according to this USGS website, they have like a little thing right here, rates of rainfall. According to them, you have heavy shower, which is defined as between 10 millimeters within an hour to 50 millimeters. So what happened in Chile is it is in this range, but I probably wouldn't record it unless it was like violent. If it was above, if it was more than 55 millimeters an hour, at that point, then I will record it. But it's still good to take note of it. So this is obviously looks like a store in a mall or something like that, and it's flooding. You have water coming up through the plumbing. Is it? Well, no, it's coming down from the ceiling too. It's coming from everywhere, from below and above. Oh, that is crazy. All right, here is Libya. Just intense flash flooding. This is also Libya. Cars being, look, the wheels were just going. Is there must be somebody in there right now at the time that this is being recorded. The headlights were on. I hope that person gets out. It looks like this car is on. It looks like there's lights reflecting on the water. So yeah, this is becoming really common. Seeing these, okay, like the kind of like the three big things with these events is you have like the raging rivers going down city streets. You have vehicles being swept away, people being swept away, and then a lot of times, if it's a city that has a subway system, you see the videos of the subway being flooded. But this just keeps happening. It's happened a number of times over just the last month or two. Libya. Gosh, and this water, I guess because it's desert, it's all really just like muddy, really mixed in with the dirt. Jeez Louise. Volcaholic. Yeah, I totally agree. This is hashtag Libya. This is this is not, quote, it's just weather or storms happen every day around the world. This is not normal. No, it's not. I feel like I can say that for sure. You know, I've always been a news junkie. I don't know if you have. Let me know in the comments below. Are you a news junkie? And let me know your opinion on this. I don't think that there's been, I mean, there's obviously always been flash floods. But at this frequency, like how frequently we're seeing this, in sometimes in some of the places that we're seeing it, like in Europe. Europe, up until recently, was not a place that I ever really pictured crazy flash flooding in major cities. But it seems like that's becoming the norm. Okay, let's move on. Now we're back in Chile. Looks like it's that same shopping mall. And you have the water coming down. Whoa. Oh, whoa. Okay. And you have that entire panel or whatever crash to the ground from the weight of the water. Oh my gosh. Okay, here we are. This is Gateshead, United Kingdom. Okay, again, the crazy flash flooding, raging river down the street. I verified it with these two articles from Meir and then from Chronicle Live. So for Meir, this is what they say. Thousands of people taking part in the Great North Run have been left stranded after being caught up in torrential downpours. This is like the second story in recent times where there's like some event going on. The last one that we covered was Burning Man in the Nevada desert, where there's an event going on and then people are left stranded because of rain. So in this case, we're in the United Kingdom and it's the Great North Run. I don't know if that's like a marathon or something like that. Large crowds with medals after completing the race have been filmed looking saturated in the street as they waited for news on transport links. The Tyne and Wear Metro said that there had been severe flooding causing South Shields Station to close as it advised people to seek shelter. So I don't have any video of these metro stations, but it sounds like the same thing. Raging river in the streets, and then the metro's flooding. Yeah, I can only assume that this is some kind of like marathon. I'm not seeing like any bicycles or anything like that. Peter Heath, Deputy Chief Fire Officer of Tyne and Wear Fire and Rescue Service, added, quote, "Here in Tyne and Wear FRS, we are experiencing a very high level of demand in response to flooding and are prioritizing calls to life calls. Please bear with us and we will continue to work to help support people, but are prioritizing life risk calls just now." And here's some pictures. Yeah, this is another one. You see this occasionally, people in like the kayaks and stuff like that. People on bicycles there. All right, and that's pretty much it. So you have that going on up here. I don't think that's in Scotland. I think that's still in England. Yeah, this is the border right here between England and Scotland. So it's taking place right here in this area. So add the UK to the list of Spain, Slovenia, Croatia, Serbia, Turkey, Bulgaria, Greece, Libya, and Tunisia. Again, this is all recently, since July. Everything right here. Oh yeah, Moscow. Don't forget Moscow. Moscow also had this same type of flooding. So this is just within the last 3 months. Really more like 2 1/3 of a month, because we're only on the 11th of September. Just crazy. And then over here, China, Beijing, Fuzhou, Hong Kong. Oh yeah, India right there. This is insanity. Look at all this flooding. Brazil, Buenos Aires. Again, this is not just normal flooding. All these ones that I have here are the raging rivers going down the streets. Okay, let's go back to X. So here's a video of it. This is in Perryton, Texas. I'm not adding this because I wasn't really able to verify that this was like a big major flooding. It looks like really dramatic right here. Yes. But when you look down the street, it doesn't look like there's like a ton of flooding down there. There's not cars being swept away. In fact, it seems that he's in a car. You can see the side view mirror right here, and he's, here. So, I mean, I've seen things like this here in my small town here in Kansas whenever there's like heavy rain. So I wouldn't put this in the same category as the really, really heavy rain in these other locations, but just so that's on your radar. Here we are back in, is this the same video? Well, here we are back in Libya. This might be the same video. Back in the shopping mall in Chile. This girl's trying to stop the water from coming. I don't think that was ever gonna work, ma'am. Okay, Libya. Oh gosh, this is a bad situation. Hope that guy and whoever's filming, I hope they ended up okay. Are they floating backwards? Or is he driving backwards? Oh, it seems like maybe he was driving backwards. This supposedly happened in Libya. I don't have a way to verify this. I mean, usually when you get these like red skies, it's either from a dust storm or smoke from wildfires. So I don't know, maybe the hurricane, maybe it whipped up a bunch of dust or something like that as it was headed toward Libya. I don't know, but Here's Libya again. Morocco, they're getting some aid and supplies. Looks like everybody there's in good spirits. All right, here's Libya again. This is in Greece. According to this, and I can't verify this, I didn't check, but it says that this severe flooding is continuing. This is in Artza, Greece. Libya. Jeez. Libya. Here it is again. You always have someone that's getting swept away. Although I want to say in like most of those cases, it seems like they end up being okay, because I always go back and check, and usually you don't. Sometimes you hear of some people being killed by being swept away, but other times not. It just seems like in some cases there's like no deaths associated with that place, even though you see video of people being swept away. I tried to verify this. This is from Jim Yang. Today, 2 big cities in China, Jing and Shanghai, were hit by violent rainstorms. Among them, Shanghai, Pudong receiving 105 millimeters of rainfall. Again, let's refer back to the USGS. So they call, it seems like the worst category here, violent shower, is 50 or more. And so if this is true, this is really bad. 105 millimeters in 45 minutes. I haven't seen any news stories to back this up, so you'll have to take this with a grain of salt. If I'm able to verify it, and sometimes, the stories don't come out until later. We may just have to wait before we can get the details on this. But if this is true, then again, let's go back to China. That means Hong Kong, Fuzhou, and I know there's been like a few other ones, and then Beijing have all been hit within the last 2.5 months. And now we would be adding Shanghai to the list. One of China's largest cities, and where we're going to have that temple sometime in the future. We're going to have the temple in Shanghai and the temple in Hong Kong. But China is getting hit by these floods. We've talked about the idea that there may be such thing as, some of these powers being able to manipulate weather events, and that may be what we're seeing. And I kind of tend to think that is the case, because the places that are getting hit are the ones that are essentially at war with each other, economic war and other types of war. We've talked about hybrid warfare and how the nature of war has essentially changed because there's more tools and different ways that you can wage war and accomplish your goals. So, but the places that are getting hit are basically Europe, Russia, China, and the United States. And then these BRIC countries down here, Brazil and Argentina. Argentina wants to become part of BRICS. Okay, let's continue. This is in Libya. This is a medical center in Al-Baid, evacuating patients. This is a pretty dramatic scene right here, taken from a high elevation over Derna. The name of the city is Derna in the Jabal al-Qadar region. Gosh. Oh yeah, we got this again, Gateshead, England. And that's it. That's all that I have for the videos. So a lot of things have been going on in the world recently, and it has been dramatic. And sometimes you don't really even know that it's happening unless you put something like this together, which takes a lot of time. Sometimes things are so big, you don't even realize that they're happening because it's just so much to observe, and you have to absorb it all, and you have to be able to quantify it. But these are not normal times that we're living in right now. They simply are not. And I guess that's a pretty good segue. Let's go to President Nelson and what he's seen in his lifetime, his 100 years. A century of living. In celebration of his 99th birthday, President Nelson reflects on innovation, growth, political breakthroughs. Okay, there he is. President Russell Marion Nelson was born September 9th, 1924 in Salt Lake City, the son of Marion C. and Edna Anderson Nelson. On September 9th, 2023, President Nelson turned 99 years old. Now, well, I'll save that for a minute, for just a second from now. President Nelson was set apart as the 17th president of the church on January 14th, 2018, after serving 34 years in the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. In addition to his service as an apostle, President Nelson is known for his long and esteemed medical career. In celebration of his birthday, the Church News is printing an excerpt from his new book called Heart of the Matter, What 100 Years of Living Have Taught Me. So, again, and I know that this is kind of repetitious, but there's always new people joining the channel. I think it's maybe significant that he's in his 100th year. He's 99 years old, but he is now experiencing his 100th year. When you're born, from the time you're born till you're 1 year old, that is your first year. When you turn 1 year old, the next year is your second year. You understand? So he is in his 100th year. And the reason why that may be significant is when we're thinking about the second coming and the millennium, there's something that happens to you at 100 years old or in your 100th year. I don't know which one. In Isaiah 65, 20 through 22, it says, "There shall no more thence be an infant of days, nor an old man that hath not filled his days. For the child shall die 100 years old. But the sinner, being 100 years old, shall be accursed. And they shall build houses and inhabit them, and they shall plant vineyards and eat the fruit of them. They shall not build and another inhabit. They shall not plant and another eat. For as the days of a tree are the days of my people, and mine elect shall long enjoy the work of their hands." Okay, and this chapter is talking about the millennium. And then in D&C 101, 29 through 31, "And there shall be no sorrow, because there is no death. In that day an infant shall not die until he is old, and his life shall be as the age of a tree." And Isaiah said that that's 100 years. "And when he dies, he shall not sleep, that is to say, in the earth, but shall be changed in the twinkling of an eye, and shall be caught up, and his rest shall be glorious." So you see what I'm getting to here. President Nelson may be one of the first ones to go through the twinkling process, going directly from mortality to being resurrected, which would be very fitting. It'd be a very public example for everybody, showing everybody, this new age has begun, the age of the millennium, where death as we used to experience it is no longer. Now it's this type of death where you don't get buried or anything like that. You just get changed from mortality to immortality. Joseph Fielding Smith in Doctrines of Salvation confirms it. He says, "In that day there will be no death until men are old. Children will not die, but will live to the age of a tree." Isaiah says this is 100 years. "When the time comes for men to die, they'll be changed in the twinkling of an eye, and there will be no graves." And then Bruce R. McConkie backs it up as well, but I don't need to read that. It's just kind of repetitious. This is in Millennial Messiah, page 648, in case you want to look it up. So I don't know if it means specifically that you have to be 100 years old or if you're in your 100th year of life. But President Nelson keeps bringing this up, the fact that even though he's 99, it is his, 100th time of whatever. So, for example, if we go to his social media post, this was December 18th of last year. He says, "This year I will celebrate for the 99th time. Sorry. This year I will celebrate Christmas for the 99th time." So that's when he was 98 years old. Okay. He had turned 98 in September of last year, and that Christmas was his 99th. So he brought it up last year, and now he's writing a book that highlights that fact, that it's 100 years of living, right? Because once you reach your 99th year, you have lived 100 years. Just like how when you're born, once you reach your first birthday, you have lived 1 year before that. And then you are now in your second year when you're 1 year old. He is now in his 100th year. As the church celebrates President Nelson's landmark birthday, the church news offers a glimpse of the personal reflections he prepared while looking back on his lifetime. He says, "Now that I'm in my 100th year," there it is again, "I have the rare opportunity of reflecting on a century of living. I was born during the war. I was born during the Roaring '20s, when the world was still emerging from the devastating effects of World War I. So this is the first thing that I highlight in red, because essentially he goes over all the big things that have happened in the world in his lifetime. Things that I think sometimes we don't even clump in with the last days. Sometimes like I see this kind of like attitude where it's like, no, all the things that have been prophesied, it's in the future. It hasn't even happened yet. We haven't seen anything yet. You have not seen anything yet. Yeah, we have. And the last days is not just 2023 and afterwards. The last days, I saw somewhere, I need to find this quote, but someone even talked about the fact that after the time of the apostles, the time of the great apostasy was the last days. But we're definitely in the last days when it comes to living in this dispensation since Joseph Smith. You can say for sure that this entire time has been the last days. And yes, as we continue to get closer and closer, things are probably going to get worse and maybe more dramatic and everything. But there's already been quite a bit that's already happening. So that's the point of this exercise. World War I happened. And then he says, "I lived to see far too many other wars," which I've done my best to keep track of on my Second Coming timeline. Let me zoom out to 100%. So in these columns, E through K, I keep track of a few different things: wars, pandemics or epidemics, riots, protests, and stuff like that. But anything that's like either a riot, a protest, or a war, I have in red. So right now we have the Ukraine war, the Syrian civil war, some smaller things, riots in France, stuff happening in Israel. But you go back in time and yeah, there's been lots. Here's the George Floyd protest, Afghanistan war, the Arab Spring, which was a series of revolutions and conflicts, the Iraq war, the Second Libyan war, the Second Congo war, Kosovo war, Bosnian war, Croatian War of Independence, 10-Day War. I'll just go back to 1924 since we're talking about President Nelson. These have all happened in his lifetime. The Gulf War, the Cold War, the Soviet-Afghan War, the Iran-Iraq War, the First Lebanon War, the Dirty War, or the Guerra Sucia, the Falklands War, the Vietnam War, the Yom Kippur War, the War of Attrition, the football war between El Salvador and Honduras. I have the civil rights movement, which I haven't read because there was a lot of protests and stuff, and there was violence and things like that. The 6-Day War, which was a very, very significant war. It's when Israel came into possession of the city of Jerusalem, ending the time of the Gentiles when we're talking about possession of Jerusalem. For 2,000 years, it had been trodden underfoot of the Gentiles, but that came to an end when Israel captured it again. The Suez Canal crisis and Sinai War, Korean War, the Greek Civil War, the Israeli War of Independence, the Second Sino-Japanese War, World War II, the Russo-Finnish War, the Spanish Civil War, the Italo-Ethiopian War, the Chaco War between Bolivia and Paraguay, the Rif War between Spain and basically Morocco. And here we are, 1924. So, yeah, all that's taking place. Oh, and look at this. This is kind of weird. Oh, he had passed away the same year that he was born. The Ottoman Empire ended on the 3rd of March. But anyway, yeah, he's seen a lot of stuff. That all that has happened, and we should take that into consideration when we're thinking about the last days. If we think that not a whole lot's going on, there's been a lot going on. Okay, the Great Depression, the rise of terrorism, and even a worldwide pandemic. Thankfully, I've also witnessed remarkable strides forward for humanity. I marvel at the countless innovations that have transformed the world around me. I remember, now here's a list of the good things and things that honestly have helped the church by preserving life and also helping the spread of the gospel. So, for example, I remember witnessing the first television broadcast that were little more than a grainy picture in black and white, and then the awe of antibiotics such as penicillin that revolutionized medicine. I've seen everything from the advent of jet engines. See, television, jet engines, that's definitely helped in the spread of the gospel. Maybe not so much radar, but radar and nuclear power, to the transformational nature of the transistor and integrated circuits that laid the foundation of the digital age. In recent years, I've experienced the explosive growth of the internet and the rise of social media platforms that have fundamentally changed how people communicate and share information. I've seen the world become more interconnected and globalized, which, you can see this as like a bad thing, but it is also a good thing because it's helping the world. As you have the powers that be that have their master plans for the world and what they're trying to do, at the same time, it helps the church. As we do become more globalized, it's easier to connect with people and easier for the gospel to move and to go to places that it hasn't been before, or for people to come to places where the gospel is. I know, don't fall into the trap. Like, I'm not saying change your politics, but you should always look for the silver lining, because the Lord can take negative things and use it for his own purposes. And sometimes I think we just like rigidly stick to our politics and, the UN is so horrible, and immigration, and and I get it. I'm more on the conservative side of things, and I swing that way, but I'm also not a black and white thinker, and I can see the complexity of situations and understand that though some things might go against my politics, I can see how it's a win-win situation. So anyway, continuing, during my life, I've seen the automobile industry go from producing Ford's Model T touring car to electric vehicles of almost every brand. And now we are becoming acquainted with artificial intelligence and the dramatic leap this innovation represents. See how he doesn't cast that in a bad light. And definitely artificial intelligence can be used for bad, for evil. It can be misused, but just like everything, so can the internet, so can cars, so can nuclear power, so can radar, so can everything. Do not be a black and white thinker. Don't do it. Try and look for the good in the way that these things can bless the church and also your own life. And be active if you need to. If you need to be involved in government and politics, be there. Don't just be a complainer. Don't just hop on YouTube and just complain, or social media and just be a complainer. Do something. If there's a problem, then do something about it. But also just recognize the good that comes from different situations. All right, these advances are fascinating. I've witnessed numerous political breakthroughs in my lifetime. I well remember the end of World War II. Yeah, that was kind of a big one, a big sign of the times. In 1945, and the establishment of the United Nations. Again, I know a lot of you just kind of recoil at that, and you're like, oh my gosh, how could he be saying that about the United Nations? That's the main tool of the Gadiant robbers. And it is. I think that's maybe a little bit oversimplified. I think that they can manipulate things and they can use organizations and stuff. But think about this. I've talked about before that when Christ comes and he implements his political kingdom, it's going to be a reality. It's not just going to be some fantasy, some ambiguous thing that you can't really put your finger on. There's going to be an actual practical way that's brought about. We know that because Joseph Smith, he formed the Council of 50, in which they were drafting a constitution for the millennium, and it even included a flag. So it's not just going to be like a magical, like, okay, everyone is now. No, there's going to be the Lord likes to work through practical means. And so, yeah, the United Nations is horrible. Believe me, you don't need to tell me that it's horrible. I know it's horrible in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways, it can do some good things. And it may be the tool that the Lord uses to implement his own political kingdom. Of course, he would dramatically change everything, but the things that are there, like this is what the world is used to right now. And so as you're transitioning or you're implementing a new kingdom, it might be through this organization that's all ready to set up to bring together all these different countries. So anyway, continuing, I was stirred as the civil rights movement in the 1950s and 60s brought about much needed progress toward racial equality in the United States. I traveled frequently through Eastern Europe in the 1980s, and like the rest of the world, celebrated the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 and the major advancements throughout Eastern Europe that followed. And of course, that made it so that all these different countries could now receive the gospel. And now have temples. Like, for example, Ukraine. Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union. What am I trying to look for here? It was part of the Soviet Union, but now we have a temple there. And there's still one planned for Russia. Doesn't seem like there's been much progress toward realizing that goal, but there is one planned for Russia. So, yeah, that was a big thing. In major advancements throughout Eastern Europe that followed. Okay. And I have seen the rise and fall of apartheid in South Africa in the subsequent election of Nelson Mandela as the country's first black president. These breakthroughs, along with countless others, have shown me that even in the midst of adversity and conflict, humanity has the capacity for growth, understanding, compassion, and progress. The year I was born, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints had a membership just shy of 598,000. That's just a little bit over 500,000. Can you believe that? And now here we are almost at, what are we almost, I should know this. We're almost at 18 million. We're at 17. Let me look at LDS membership statistics. At the end of 2022, the church had 31,300 congregations. Okay, and what did he say? There were 6 operating temples, 90 stakes, only 90 stakes, 25 missions, and 867 missionaries. Well, so anyway, membership at the end of 2022, 17,002,461. Okay, so we're at the pretty much solidly at the 17 million mark. And then list of LDS temples. No, not that. Okay, chronological. Let's go to this website. So as of right now, between all different stages, whether they're already constructed and operating, announced, or under construction, or renovation, 315. That's what we're at in that total number. And then if we're just talking about ones that are currently in operation, we're at 179, with the Saratoga Springs, Utah Temple being the most recent. 179 compared to 6. 6 when he was born. President Heber J. Grant was president of the church. Elder David O. McKay was superintendent of the Sunday school. And Elder George Albert Smith was superintendent of the Young Men's Mutual Improvement Association, both serving in those capacities as apostles. Clarissa Smith Williams was general president of the Relief Society. Martha Horn Tingy, or Tingy, I don't know, was general president of the Young Women Mutual Improvement Association. And Louis Bouton Felt was general president of the primary. And that picture is President Heber J. Grant speaks the first words broadcast by the church over radio on May 6th, 1922. So just 2 years before he was born, before President Nelson was born. The October 1924 General Conference, held just 3 weeks after I was born, was the first to be broadcast by radio. Now, this is interesting. I don't know if, if anything special might happen in the October 2024 General Conference next year, but that's an interesting, 100-year mark from the time that the first radio broadcast happened. Anyway, President Grant opened the conference proceedings with the following remarks. Quote, "The exercises of today and throughout the conference are to be broadcasted, and it is estimated that in the neighborhood of 1 million people will be able to hear all that is said, provided they are listening in during the conference sessions. The radio is one of the most marvelous inventions man knows anything about. To have the voice carried for thousands of miles seems almost beyond comprehension." End quote. General conferences now broadcast to tens of millions of people around the globe. It goes without saying that the Lord's Church, along with transmission of General Conference to the world, has changed dramatically during my lifetime. Yeah. As I indulge in reflections about my centennial journey, again, he's highlighting, 100 years, saying centennial. I'm grateful to have witnessed a century, and he says it again, of unprecedented innovation. And I am optimistic about what the future holds for humanity. So, again, unlike so many that push these just very fear based narratives, what we have to look forward to in the future is United Nation, United Nations concentration camps and oppression and having services removed and all these different things. There's going to be war so bad that you're going to have to go on foot to the New Jerusalem. I don't think that President Nelson believes that. I really don't. And I think that we would do well to emulate him and paint an optimistic future, not being naive. For heaven's sake, we're looking at all the things that are happening right now. This is horrible, but you can still be optimistic about the future. Because by and large, the Lord is going to protect his covenant people. And that's what you should focus on rather than all the doomsday scenarios and then scare everybody else in the process as you make yourself scared. In January 2018, at the age of 93, I was called by the Lord to serve as president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This privilege and responsibility has underscored one of the profound learnings that 100 years, there it is again, have taught me, that divine laws and truths govern our lives, whether we realize it or not. I've come to depend on these essential laws and principles to improve each day as a man and as a husband, nurturing meaningful connections with my children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, become a heart surgeon, build bridges of understanding with people the world over, teach the restored gospel of Jesus Christ throughout the world, lead a religion whose members are found in more than 200 countries, and whose head is Jesus Christ, and serve the Lord, his people, and the world in more ways than I ever thought possible. This is interesting. 200 countries. For some reason, with as much as I like geography, I've never really known the number of countries in the world, only knowing that it's in the 200s. How many countries are there? According to this, 195. I don't think that that's right. Let's go to this. How many countries are there in the world? This might seem like to be a simple question. The answer is quite complicated. The problem is that different organizations have different stances on exactly what it takes to qualify as a country. Depending on the source, the members of countries can vary considerably, and there is no universal agreement on the total. Oh, well, maybe that's the problem. That said, the United Nations is generally regarded as the de facto authority on nationhood. Currently, the UN recognizes 193 countries as member states. So that would be member states. Then there's Wikipedia's list of sovereign states that mirrors the UN's list of 193 countries and 2 observer states. Then adds 11 sovereign states, including Taiwan, Kosovo, Northern Cyprus, Cook Islands, and more, for a total of 206. Other sources use a less rigid definition of country and give dependent and disputed territories such as Greenland and the Gaza Strip their own separate listings. This is the reason the United States CIA fact book lists 237 countries. Okay, so President Nelson says a religion whose members are found in more than 200 countries. So I don't know. I don't know what all those countries are, but it seems to be the whole world. It's reasons like this that I don't think that, well, we still have to wait for missionaries to literally go in every single country. And every single person has to hear the gospel. I think that time has come, especially with all the immigration, the internet, and then all the other modes of communication. And, people going to other countries to work. Maybe they like work in a country, come back home, because they live on the border or something like that. But I don't know. I tend to be more on the side that every nation, kindred, and tongue at this point has heard the gospel. Okay. And then, okay. And that's pretty much it. All right. Well, that's going to be it for this one. So if you come across any disasters, feel free to send it to me. I may or may not include it, just depending on if I feel it meets the criteria to be added to this list that I'm compiling. But I'll just keep working at this, and jeez, we still have the rest of the month to go, and then the rest of the year, and it's already been a very eventful year. But that's going to be it for this one. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.